Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today for this presentation on intangible cultural heritage. I'm going to talk about three contrasting projects I've worked on over recent years in three different countries: Saudi Arabia, Syria, and Iraq. Each project sits at the intersection of intangible cultural heritage, traditional crafts, performing arts, and social practices, with the more tangible heritage of historic objects and structures referred to as cultural property. My first case study is the Mansoujat Foundation, which was founded in the year 2000 by a group of women in Jeddah who share a passion for the traditional costumes of Saudi Arabia. Mansoujat's mission is to preserve and revive the kingdom's traditional costumes, textiles, and embroidery. Although costumes themselves could be said to fall more into the category of artifacts, i.e. cultural property, the techniques involved in their production and appearance, such as embroidery and bead making, as well as the important aspects of tribal or regional identities and customs, would be classified more as intangible cultural heritage. My work with Mansoujat began 20 years ago when I was asked to make a film about the costumes and heritage of Saudi Arabia. And the colour and variety of these costumes, as well as the contrasting landscapes, climate and architecture of the different regions of this enormous country, were a revelation to me. In 2010, I started work on a 10-year project with Mansoujat to document the costumes and tribal identities of Saudi Arabia. This was quite a challenge, as the kingdom did not permit international tourists to enter until 2019. Our work was eventually published in 2021 in the book Traditional Costumes of Saudi Arabia. I'm now a trustee of the Mansoujat Foundation, the charity established to preserve the costumes for future generations, promote academic study, and public engagement with the collection. The Mansoujat costumes are divided into two different collections. The core collection consists of museum-quality original costumes, whereas the walk collection includes lower-quality originals and replicas used for live costume displays. Here we see an example of a live display at the Victoria and Albert Museum, London, in 2007. The costumes in the collection have been sourced over several decades, sometimes from professional dealers, but often from more humble sources. Here we see an example of costumes on display in a second-hand store in the town of Al-Baha, alongside stuffed animals and other questionable antiques. And here are some fine examples of silver jewellery sold in the women's souk in Najran, alongside eggs and other household goods. I'm going to highlight just a few examples of the different tribes and regions to illustrate how the costumes relate to the local climate, landscape, craft practices and customs, starting with the Thaqif tribe, who reside in the villages and rural areas around the town of Taif in the Hijaz Mountains above Mecca. The road from Jeddah and Mecca climbs the steep mountain escarpment that runs parallel to the Red Sea. In a journey of under 1 hour, the temperature can drop from 41 degrees on the coastal plain to just under 16 degrees at the top of this escarpment. Taif is famed for its roses, which thrive due to the combination of sun and high altitude. They are locally distilled for use in many of the world's leading fragrances. In Mansoujat's research, and in the book, we made ample use of historical photographs and drawings to determine how the different costume components, which were often sourced separately, would have been combined to make a complete outfit. Here we see an example of a thobe, the main garment for a woman's costume, combined with a gargouche head covering, and then completed by the kena as the headdress. The outfit would have been complemented by jewellery such as this necklace, incorporating the Marie Theresa Thaler silver coin, Originally minted in Vienna in 1741, this was used as a currency for centuries throughout the Arab world due to its reputation for silver purity. The Hudayl tribe inhabit very much the same area around Taif as the Thaqif, but despite this close proximity, they used very different styles, colours and production techniques in their costumes. The highly decorated pantaloons seen in this photograph from the 1930s can also be seen in this costume. Note that the Hudayl used predominantly blue fabric in contrast to the red fabric used by the Thaqif. They also make ample use of the tie-dye technique to create the white patterns seen on the front of this tobe. The Bani Sa'ad tribe inhabit a rugged mountainous area further south in the Hijaz Mountains. In addition to its stone architecture, this area is known for the grazing of sheep and also beekeeping. Here we see a hollowed out tree trunk being used as a beehive. The Bani Sa'ad are particularly famed for their production of handmade metal beads. This process begins with the melting of an alloy ingot over a stove. We can see here the small bead-shaped pieces of metal separated out in the pan. And then the thorn of the local acacia tree is then used to pierce the hole through the bead. And these handmade beads are much rounder and smoother than machine-made beads can be. We see here an example of the beads sewn into a headdress of the Bani Sa'ad. And the beads are used in the production of the Jadil belt seen here, and also the magnificent headdresses of the Bani Sa'ad. One important point to note here is that the large investment that went into making these costumes, both in time and the price of materials, gave the finished costumes residual value. This gave the women who owned these costumes greater financial security and independence. Al-Baha is known as the region of 1001 towers. These stone and slate observation towers were built to protect villages, crops and livestock from attack by rival tribes. The triangular motifs seen here in the local stone architecture of Al-Baha can also be seen in the old carved doors and in the woolen jackets known as madara. These jackets give an indication of how cold it can be high up in the Hijaz Mountains. Asir, in the southwest of Saudi Arabia, is well known for its mountainous terrain. The region is green and fertile as it receives more rainfall than the rest of the kingdom. The village of Rijal Alma is more than 900 years old and was located on a trade route linking Yemen with the Levant through the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. The buildings are up to 8 floors high, constructed with stone walls consisting of large stones held together by smaller pieces of slate. Decoration is added by patterns of quartz. Inside their homes, women decorate the walls with geometric patterns and tree-like motifs in a style called al-Qat al-Asiri. The costumes of Asir reflect the green and fertile environment, with thobes made of floral patterned cotton combined with straw hats and baskets. The flowermen of the Qahtan tribe originally inhabited the cliff-top village of Harbala in Asir. They adorn their hair with wreaths made of locally grown flowers and herbs. These are primarily worn for decoration, although the plants also have supposed medicinal properties. I thought I'd finish this segment with some music. So, This is a video I filmed on my iPhone just a few weeks ago when I was in Asir. This is Hadish, a flowerman from Asir, who also plays the flute. So, take it away, Hadish. My second case study is Ion Heritage, an organisation I co-founded with my colleague Augustus Lurston in 2019. Ion Heritage is a platform for engaging stories from the Middle East. We aim to support filmmakers, musicians, storytellers and poets from the region in the documentation and celebration of intangible cultural heritage. Our projects include campaigns celebrating the poetry and musical traditions of the Euphrates River Valley in North-East Syria and the rural and urban areas of northern Afghanistan. Cultural heritage in both tangible and intangible forms is under threat in these regions from neglect, misappropriation and destruction. The situation has become particularly urgent due to sectarianism, nationalism and conflict. The initiatives seek to record vulnerable oral and musical traditions at risk of erosion, either through forced migration and upheaval, deliberate campaigns of suppression, or the reduction in cultural transmission from one generation to the next. Our projects benefit from local knowledge, enthusiasm, and authenticity. We broadcast through social media platforms widely used by local populations to reach audiences otherwise ignored by and inaccessible to Western academic initiatives. The videos produced by Ion Heritage have achieved over 7 million views on Facebook in Syria and Iraq. The project also reaches international audiences through the Ion Heritage website, exhibitions and film screenings. The Heritage of the Euphrates project aims to record and celebrate the poetry, music and storytelling traditions of the people and places along the Euphrates River Valley in Syria. The Euphrates region is distinguished by its wealth of popular poetry and folklore singing. The multiple civilizations which have inhabited the Euphrates Valley through history have given the region a unique dialect, combining a mixture of Bedouin, rural and urban accents. The Heritage of the Euphrates team comprises Syrian artists, media professionals, academics, and project managers. The first Euphrates Heritage House opened in 2019 as a media centre and operational base for the Heritage of the Euphrates project. Although established and operated by Syrian refugees from the Deir ez-Zor province, it is located just over the border in Urfa, Turkey. A central iconic feature inside the building, also serving as a backdrop for video productions, is a large relief artwork created by Syrian artists. It depicts architecture and other heritage around Deir ez-Zor that was damaged or destroyed in recent conflicts. I want to play you the whole of this video, even though it is 3 minutes long, because I want you to hear the people responsible for creating this beautiful artwork explain their thought process.
أنا يسعدني بهذا الحدث الكبير بتراث دير الزور، تجمع شباب من دير الزور حول بناء هذا التجمع الثقافي العظيم. هذا يذكرني بحضوري بمرسمي زمان. أنا اشتياقي دائما للتاريخ وتحديدا حضارة ماري، نحن أبناء حضارة لسنا جديدين على هذا الشيء. كان أستاذ أحمد شوحان من المهتمين في الآثار، كان عندي شغف دائما أتعرف على هذه الحضارة العظيمة، حضارة ماري أو آلهة الينبوع أو تل الحرير بمعنى الكامل. حاولت أني أعمل دمج بين آلهة الينبوع وجسر المعلق كرمز حديث لدير الزور بدير العتيق كبناء دمر بالحقبة الماضية، ببناء أو قلعة الرهبة بالميادين، من أجل أن نثبت هذه الذكرى، من أجل أن نعيد ما دمر من خلال الحروب.
أنا سهيل أحمد، مهتم بالدراسات القديمة واللغات القديمة. هلا هذا العمل أنا كتبت هون ببيت نهرين، هو تعبير عن بلاد ما بين النهرين باللغة الآرامية السريانية، هو التعبير عن تراث ما بين دجلة والفرات ومنطقة التراث الفراتي بشكل عام. يعني هو تعبير عن حنين الماضي، والماضي يعتبر هو أساس للحاضر والمستقبل، فبالتالي عندما يطلب الإنسان شيء من التراث هو في حقيقة الأمر يطلب تكملة شخصيته المستقبلية. هي دجلة والفرات اللي نحن نعتبرها تقريبا من الألف الخامس والسادس قبل الميلاد إلى يومنا هذا. يعني بحقيقة الأمر لا يمكن فهم أي حضارة إلا من خلال لغتها، لأن اللغة هي تعتبر يعني الوعاء الحضاري من خلاله نكتشف ما الذي جرى في التاريخ. فبالتالي لكي تعرف الحضارة يجب أولا أن تعرف اللغة، لأن اللغة هي الجسر الذي من خلاله أن تعبر إلى مكنونات العقلية والفكرية والنفسية لهذا الشعب أو ذاك.
This screenshot of the Heritage of the Euphrates Project's YouTube page shows the videos devised, filmed, edited and uploaded by the team in the space of just 1 month. Heritage of the Euphrates more recently established a second heritage house in Raqqa, Syria. The building is small and supplied with minimal equipment. However, it is vital to have a physical footprint inside Syria to be more closely connected to the local culture and heritage that the team are documenting. It is also obviously hugely symbolic to establish this in Raqqa, formerly the self-declared capital of the Islamic State group. I'm now going to show some example videos organised by theme. I'm afraid I'll only be able to share a few seconds of each video due to the time constraint of this presentation. So first of all, linguistics. This video is one of a series examining the dialects of the Euphrates River region. This episode explores the influence of arrivals from Yemen and the Arabian Peninsula on the dialects spoken in towns and cities along the banks of the Euphrates River Valley.
تقولشي، تعمللشي، تطبخلشي، هاي الكلمات لهجة ديرية، صدقون إنها لغة عربية فصحى، والدليل امرأة القيس قال: أغرك مني أن حبك قاتلي وأنك مهما أمرت القلب يفعلي. الكشكشة والعنعنة والشنشنة والتلتلة والاستنطاء كلها لهجات عربية قديمة نستخدمها بوادي الفرات، لأنه أغلب القبائل العربية سكنت بهذا الوادي، سكنت مع السكان الأصليين وأثروا وتأثروا.
Next, the theme of memory and oral heritage. This video discusses the heart of Arab authenticity and takes place on the banks of the Euphrates River.
في روايتين كانوا شيابنا احنا نقول او اجدادنا يحكوا لنا اياها من باب العلم بالشيء او من باب انه نعرف شنو البدو اصالتهم. تمام. فكان قديم في شيخ كان محنك وذكي من البدو طبعا. بدو عرب قبل، حتى الاغلبيه كانوا اميه ما يقرون ولا يكتبون. تمام.
Now music. Here we have a musical performance taking place after fishing along the Euphrates. And now a folk song performed by a young girl.
يا معهدي يا مسجدي شرف العلوم غايتي يا معهدي يا مسجدي شرف العلوم غايتي إسلامنا هو ديننا ومحمد هو قدوتي يا شيخنا.
Now poetry, and this performance is by the host of many Ion Heritage episodes, Abu Yazan.
وانا الايراني الهيبه وخفت ارقد وتحترق تحت الوساده والسماعه لامستني يوم ما لمستها عجيبه صدري هلهل كانها حطت لي قلاده طالعتني بشك وبحيره مريبه بعين تسبي والله بادتني اباده قالت لي دواك ما اقدر انا اجيبه.
Agriculture and fishing. And here we have a farmer discussing managing a harvest operation.
يبدأ حواش القطن من 1/9 حسب يعني حسب الانتاج البيو، يعني من 1/9 لآخر 1/12 مثلا. إذا القطن انتاجه كويس يتأخر، ما صار يعني الموسم كويس يتأخر الحواش.
Here a group of women are discussing a particular nuance and local custom connected to marriage known as zahab.
الذهاب يعني الذهاب هو اسمه اللي العريس يروح يشتري للعروس، هذا هو اسمه الذهاب.
هذا اسمه الذهاب.
هذا
اللي يشتري العريس للعروس.
اللي يشتري العريس أي شنو هو اللي بده يشتري؟
أهلها ما الذهب بس من عمامها.
من عمامها، شنو هو المطلوب منه؟
يعني مطلوب منه مثلا بدلتين يجيب لها زبون محرج.
المعروف عليه بدلتين.
إيه.
This video, filmed among the shops and bazaars of Raqqa, asks locals to describe the popular proverbs and expressions of Raqqa.
منين جتنا الكلمة هاي نحن هنا على الرقة؟
هي موروثة من أولي، يعني من فتحت عيوننا على الضوء ونعرف إنه إذا واحد يزعل من الثاني يقول له ليه زعلان مني؟ يقول والله سمعت شيء، يقول هذا شيء لي إذا زعلتك أو سمعت مني شيء أو حكيت شيء.
طب حضرت شي مرة موقف أنت مثلا واحد قام يتهم حدا وقال له خيو هذا شيء لي؟
إيه شفت نوبي واحد قال له وين يا واد شنت ورحت وجيت، قال له هذا شيء لي إذا سمعت هذا يعني.
The heritage of the Euphrates production team also uses drones to explore the cultural terrain, from fishing boats on the Euphrates to horse racing in the deserts of Darb Zubaydah.
عدنا رجال عدنا خيول للمحتاج ننطح حلول، عدنا رجال عدنا خيول للمحتاج ننطح حلول، نبي الله هو يقول بيها الخير يومية، نبي الله هو يقول بيها الخير يومية.
Ion Heritage has collaborated on a number of projects with the Enhedwana Society, an educational charity founded in 2002 to promote the history, culture and literature of ancient Iraq through the arts of storytelling and drama. The Zipang recording project was launched by the Enhedwana Society in October 2017 to make publicly available the Zipang repertoire of retold Mesopotamian stories. These were developed over 20 years of public performances by the Zipang storytellers June Peters, Badia Obeid, Fran Hazelton, and Fiona Collins. The Heritage of the Euphrates team produced videos which broadcast and discussed Arabic versions of the ancient Mesopotamian stories of Adapa and the Epic of Gilgamesh, performed by the Zipang storytellers. Within the first 2 weeks, these videos were seen by over 700,000 people on Facebook, with the largest audiences in Baghdad, Nineveh, and Basra governorates. Are You a Woman is a film produced by Ion Heritage in collaboration with Dr. Jana Matusak and the Zipang storytellers. It is based on a translation by Jana of a newly discovered Sumerian poem from 2000 BCE, in which two women hotly debate what it takes to be a good woman. This bilingual English-Arabic performance by the Zipang storytellers brings the ancient text back to life with a modern twist.
طبعا أبدأ معك. لا تعرفين لماذا. أبدأ معك احتراما لنفسي كي أصون شرفي وسمعتي. ولكن قولي لي ماذا فعلت لك؟ ماذا فعلت لك؟ ها؟
You asked me what you did to me. Well, when you quarrelled with me before, you quarrelled viciously. I gave you as good as I got. But I still can't sleep because of your words.
كاذبة كاذبة أنت تكذبين. انتبهي يا ننكوز كلامك فيه افتراء كبير.
This third and final segment of the presentation looks at a project I'm currently working on in southern Iraq with Rejwan Al-Mayali and the University of Al-Qudasiyah. It focuses on the protection and restoration of an important site on the Darb Zubaydah pilgrim road that once linked Kufa and Baghdad with the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. The annual Islamic pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca is one of the 5 pillars of Islam and ranks among the most significant religious journeys in the world. For centuries before the advent of modern air travel, pilgrims travelled long distances by land and sea. The Hajj routes followed pre-Islamic trade pathways, but gradually evolved to accommodate the specific needs of Islamic pilgrimage. Various routes emerged and flourished during different historical eras, adapting to the rise and fall of successive Islamic empires. The Hajj route connecting Kufa and Baghdad to Mecca grew in importance during the first 100 years of the Abbasid Caliphate, from 750 to 850 CE, a period renowned as a golden age of Muslim civilization. This route became known as the Darb Zubaydah in honour of Zubaydah bint Jafar, wife of the Abbasid Caliph Harun al-Rashid, recognising important enhancements made to infrastructure along the route under her patronage. Between Kufa and Mecca, the route stretches over a distance of 1,300 kilometres. The Abbasids originally constructed a series of 27 rest stops, at intervals suited to the travelling speed of donkeys, horses and camels. An additional 27 intermediate stations were later added to cater for the increasing number of pedestrian pilgrims, while improvements were also made to the original 27 stations. The new and enhanced infrastructure included a system of wells, cisterns and dams to provide water for travellers and their animals. Caravanserais, palaces and forts were constructed to improve the pilgrims' safety and comfort, and some stretches of the route were paved. A series of milestones and markers were installed, with the addition of lighthouses to guide pilgrims who often travelled at night to avoid the daytime heat. The Darb Zubaydah is now a transnational nomination for UNESCO World Heritage Site status, jointly submitted by the Republic of Iraq and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The section of the Darb Zubaydah located in present-day Iraq covers approximately 1/5 of the total length of the route. The 4 sites in Iraq, from north to south, are the stations at Al-Qurun, Talhat, Sharaf and Al-Aqaba. The pilgrim station of Al-Qurun is the first surviving rest stop on the Darb Zubaydah heading south from Kufa towards Mecca. The station complex includes a square-shaped rest house, shown here in the top left, 2 basins or cisterns, shown in the centre, and 2 square wells, you can see in the right and in the upper centre between the cistern and the rest house. Here we see the rest house, which is in a very fragile state of repair. And although largely filled with sand, the cisterns are covered with a wild vegetation that indicates more humid soil still present in contrast to the surrounding desert. Here we see in the foreground the larger of 2 wells, with the rest house in the background. And when I filmed one of the soldiers dropping a large stone down this well, it took over 5 seconds to reach the bottom, which means it has a depth of over 100 meters. And this is the smaller of the 2 wells. Al-Qurun also includes a unique surviving example of a menara or lighthouse built to guide pilgrims travelling by night. The menara is situated alone in the desert, 1.3 kilometers from the station. Its separate location was possibly due to the need for sighting on higher ground, whereas the station complex needed to be located at a lower elevation for its wells and cisterns. At some point in the past, the menara has collapsed and now consists of 2 main sections, a square foundation and a barrel-shaped section of the original tower. Being the closest surviving station on the Darb Zubaydah to the city of Najaf, the surviving architecture at Al-Qurun, especially the menara and rest house, has been vulnerable to intentional and unintentional damage. Both structures are now in an extremely vulnerable state and in need of greater protection and stabilization. One particularly concerning development is the construction of a modern tarmac road from Najaf along the route of the Darb Zubaydah. In addition to potentially disrupting important archaeology relating to the Hajj route, the road passes extremely close to the site of Al-Qurun, even passing between the station complex and menara. Groundworks associated with the road building have resulted in the digging of numerous ditches close to the menara, and tracks left by bulldozers demonstrate how easily damage could be inflicted, even unintentionally, to this unique historical structure. The situation is complicated by the combination of control by both government and non-government entities in the region. Whereas the road is under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Transport in Baghdad, Shia militia, Hashd al-Shabi, control checkpoints along the route. Funding from ASOR, the American Society for Overseas Research, has allowed the project team to complete the following measures. Firstly, emergency protection measures around the menara, including the erection of a protective fence and covering of the menara structure. Secondly, documentation through photography and drone filming of all structures at Al-Qurun in their current state of preservation. And thirdly, community engagement with local stakeholders to increase awareness of the site's importance and need for greater protection. In addition to surveys to assess the options for stabilisation and restoration of the structures at Al-Qurun, the next stage of this project will also devise and undertake outreach initiatives among communities along the Darb Zubaydah route. These will include visits and presentations to local schools and universities, community groups, and representatives of religious authorities. We will also explore opportunities for involving local industry and subsequent phases of the project. The modern road out of Najaf that follows the route of the Darb Zubaydah towards Al-Qurun is lined for several miles by brickworks. These giant kilns where the bricks are fired are so large that a lorry can be driven right inside for loading. It is hoped that these local communities will be involved in providing building materials and expertise to allow the restoration of built heritage such as the Menara and other infrastructure at al-Qurun. This is dusty, hot and dangerous work, but it's quite mesmerising to watch. The synchronisation feels almost choreographed. Note how one man in the right-hand video throws a set of 6 bricks that are caught by his colleague. We will also undertake surveys and documentation of other intangible cultural heritage along the Darb Zubaydah route. The results should be incorporated into future development plans to ensure that sensitive, intangible cultural heritage will be protected and enhanced alongside the physical heritage and archaeology of the Darb Zubaydah. This brings us to the end of this presentation. Thank you for listening, and I'd like to leave you with a video I filmed on my iPhone of a camel herder at Talhat, the second major stop on the Darb Zubaydah heading south from Kufa. He uses this distinctive song to call the camels under his watch to follow him.
What?